I bless this video to reach everybody that needs to see this or needs confirmation on their own path about what I'm about to talk about. Today's topic is about fake gurus and sort of how we've gotten to this point. And I invite you to stick to the end of this video because there's going to be some things I'm going to say that are maybe unexpected. It's not just a critique, but I'm going to be talking about all that I intuitively know about this and my experience, as well as what I channel in this session right here and now with us all. So, fake gurus, the reason I title it that is because at the end of the day, we need to call a spade a spade. A lot of these people have good intentions and maybe started off wanting to share something genuine and authentic with the world. But the way that our system is structured and both the incentives and the rewards for operating a certain way within this system eventually corrupts most who enter the arena. And the problem can basically be reduced to this. Should spirituality be considered a traditional market and be approached in the same or similar fashion as assets, stocks, companies, other services and industries that are conventional or traditional or business as usual, status quo? It's akin to asking the question, should healthcare be considered a market or a business? Should traditional business models be applied to health and wellness? That is a really good hypothetical question to bring up to kind of encapsulate what I'm trying to get at in this video. So I've got some experience with this. What should I say? Let me see. What should I say first? Okay. So let's talk about marketing first and foremost. So what I've noticed, and we'll get into specific details about my experience later. But what I've noticed is that the appearance, the capture, not just the illusion, but also the degree that you can capture someone's attention matters way more than the actual offerings that you have. And it's really frustrating and sad to see this with so many healers, genuine, authentic healers who are trying to navigate this landscape and feel, as I once did, that there's no other way to do it than this, the tried and true, the tested and proved way on social media, on many different platforms online, how to do this work. This is a good segue to talk about why marketing frustrates me in the space of doing spiritual work, authentic spiritual work. It all comes down to leverage. And even the terminology, the words that are used in a lot of these seminars and from these gurus who you could pay to get into their retainer, to get into their challenges, their launches, their courses and all that stuff. They'll entice you, but then as you get deeper into it, it's a system that they've created that they're selling, really. And that system uses terminology and words and measurements, all based around leverage. Leverage is a soft word for control or power, or redirection. And I don't know about you, but do you like to be seen as an object rather than a subject? I don't think it's appropriate. It's not fully appropriate for this work. It might be required to a certain degree, to a certain surface, on the surface or at a surface level, but I think it sucks people in because it eventually just becomes about numbers, about impressions, about brand. I always hear everything about your brand, your brand, your brand. And I always cringed whenever I heard that because authenticity doesn't need a brand to sell you. True authenticity doesn't need a brand. You don't need to know that purple is associated with healthy grapes when you go to the grocery store. Your own senses, your own knowing, your own sense of being drawn to certain items should be enough for you to go off of. You don't need impressions to fulfill your consumption needs or desires. But the thing is, we've been conditioned just for that. We've become complacent with a model and a practice that has basically herded us like sheep to think that we require all of these signals before we can make a wise purchase for something. And basically what I'm trying to say is these days there's so much information, there's so much marketing, there's so much leverage. We're being studied like lab subjects, or have been for over a century, to the extent that we sort of expect that treatment and we expect all of the steps as a requirement for us to go through our checklist to see if something or some service or some person is legit. And it's at those steps that people get caught up in the frazzle dazzle and the sparkly, shiny, look at me kind of thing. And the bigger a company gets, the more they focus in on how can we engineer our customer and how can we leverage our numbers, our subjects. How can we look at this as something much less personal and intimate, which is what sharing should be about, which is what all markets should ultimately be about, because you're trading your good or service for value, either in the form of payment or in the form of another good or service that you're trading for. And that should be an intimate transaction. But the levels of intimacy are getting more and more diluted and diluted as our world at large becomes more fabricated. And that's basically what I'm trying to get at. It's all about leverage. Leverage is more important than sharing growth or sharing ideas or providing a service. What matters is that the results or the manipulation versus the transcendence or the illumination or the education. That's what matters more. Chicken agrees. What should matter more than the leverage is about how is this product or service going to give you results? How is it going to truly help you? How is it going to transcend you from your problems or from you being your own problem? That's a big theme with the work that I do. A lot of people that come to me, they don't even realize to the full extent about what really troubles them or what they truly need. It starts with an impression, right? I still have to market because the world is just like this. The world is very conditioned. So, you have to interact with that. And because the world is conditioned, I do my best at being authentic in my approach to letting people know what it is that I do. And a lot of people are attracted to me for reason ABC. But once they start working with me, they realize XYZ is actually more important, or is actually what they truly need. So there's a disconnect between that visibility and what people are searching for. Because what people intuitively know what they need. Whether they can articulate that or not is another story. But we intuitively know what we need, let's say, even if it's subconscious. We put that out into the world, and this world has every corner, every opportunity that could link you or connect you with a roadblock, with a distraction, with an illusion, with a distortion, with somebody or something put in place to leverage you. And that's the biggest problem. That's the elephant in the room that I want to talk about, that you should want to talk about, that you should talk about more with people and act from that as a consumer to change your behaviors, as difficult as it may be, as inconvenient as it may be. So I wrote down that people have holes or gaps in their attention, their focus, their awareness, and marketing just uses these as tools for the benefit and the strategy of the person or company who's viewing customers as subjects rather than as people and beings and souls. So there's a big disconnect with that. So I had an opportunity to work with this person. It landed in my lap, and I decided to go for it. It felt right. It felt like it was time for me to do something like this, because I want to expand. I want to reach out to more people. I want to find better ways to provide what it is that I do in a sea of distraction and fake gurus out there, of pretense, just a sea of pretense and information and just bombardment, right? So a lot of the times when I would work at in-person events, my marketing would be put up a table, put up a tablecloth, put a few crystals on it, set up some seats, put a simple sign, and that's it. No brochures, no standing up and like trying to pitch a sale to anybody, because a lot of people would come through and they're just bamboozled, bedazzled with all the sparkles, the shininess, the pretense. The car salesman with spirituality disguises. They're disguised as gurus. They're disguised as yoga practitioners. They're disguised as Reiki masters. And I'm not like digging in or calling out these people individually, but I am as a whole, because we have to talk about the elephant in the room. 2026 is the year to do this, because we are going to be revealed who's actually qualified from who's just hype, and who's been getting results by churning a structure, a system, with you as the product, not as the collaborator. So I began working with this individual, and it seemed she seemed very nice up front. She seemed like I could trust her up front. She was very knowledgeable about a lot of terminology and everything. But the deeper I got into it, the more I started to realize, as my wife will say, what's the best way to be a coach? Coach people on how to coach. And so it's like, here's the pyramid scheme. Here's the M2M. And it's just repackaged. It's remixed into something new. And it's supposed to be something entirely different from that. No, it's not. It is exactly that. But anyway, I go into it with an open mind, an open heart, and pay big bucks for it, which I'm fine doing as long as there's value in it. But one of my big critiques is that she I had something come up in my life. I moved abroad, and in the middle of the program, she was unwilling at all to be flexible with any like schedule, like rescheduling or getting me on the tail end or the front end of another retainer, because it's cookie cutter what she does. Like she's got it for a specific duration. She's got a specific day 1, day 2, day 3, all these tasks, all these lists. And I personally don't work very well that way. I work better with without structure, with an open page or an open book and a blank page, and let the magic flow from there. But anyway, just the spirit of wanting to latch down and control and capture. It's like there's two ways to get a fish, right? Like you put bait in the water on the end of a hook, and you wait until the fish comes to your hook, or you cast a net. And this is more about like casting a net, right? And that just never sat right with me, and it still doesn't. I don't think it sits right with you either. Even as conditioned as we are, your mind might be telling you, as it did with me, well, it's got to be that way because this is proven. This is trial. This is proven by trial and it's been tested. And so many other people do this, and they copy, paste, rinse, repeat this sort of strategy. And it might work, but it only works at a certain level. It doesn't get to the heart of the matter, which is in spirituality, in healing, in wellness, in wholeness, in everything that goes beyond what we can see and sense and taste and control in the physical realm. People are dynamic beings, and you can't get beneath the surface if you just plug us into a grid or a system that's already been functioning this way for hundreds of years and expect anything different. That's why there's a lot of churn. They call it churn in the business, which they also call it a business. And it's kind of like what pharmacy companies do, right? Or what hospitals do as a company, board of directors for both hospitals and pharmaceutical companies. They don't want to fully, truly, thoroughly heal anybody, because that is the worst cash cow. That is not a good customer. They come in, they go out, they're healed, they're done. They don't need any continual work. They don't need to spend more and more money for the hope. So it's really just hope farming is what it is. And it's siphoning and sucking out little pieces of people's souls as they continue to put faith and hope and desperation into something that should work, but they see no alternative to, because this type of approach dominates our markets all over the world. It's all down to, how can I control this? How can I leverage this? How can I monopolize this? How can I be the one to own more than my competitor? It's very lose-lose. The reason I say lose-lose and not win-lose is because eventually this is not going to work for us. It's going to break down. There's a better way. Collaboration always beats out competition 10 times out of 10. In nature, in humanity, we know that we're capable of this. We know that this is our possibility and our plausibility, but people are so conditioned, they just latch back down into business as usual. So I'm here to critique that. So are you. I've learned through this industry that there are tools like something that will make your schedule look like it's full, to give the impression that you're just booked up solid, so people are going to be more apt to sign up with you, which is a subconscious thing, which is, again, a leverage. They're trying to use that. There's nothing necessarily wrong with using something like that, but the problem is human beings go all in on that. Once they get started, they become addicted to that, or they start to see dollar signs in their eyes, or they start to depersonalize, detach from the people that they are connecting with and providing a good service for, and starting to see them as numbers, or starting to see metrics as more important than what's actually going on. So they think the measurement is more important than the thing being measured. It always breaks down into that. It always eventually turns into that. That's exactly my next point. The measurements all center in dominance, control, leverage, right? So like CPMs, growth, all the terminology that they'll use to measure how successful or unsuccessful, how close are you getting to the blueprint of what we're supposed to be doing, right? In any business, it's inappropriate, and it doesn't belong in healing, in authentic, genuine healing. Now, exchanging for that is what you should be doing. No healer should ever have to do anything for free, because you don't work for free either. But I'm saying growing a healing business, like how a board of directors at a hospital or a health group that's merged a lot of hospitals starts to grow their business, should not be parallel. It should not be happening, because it harms every one of us, not just the people who are hopeful or looking for a genuine healing and transformation, but also the people who are orchestrating this and who are enabling this. It eventually trickles into them, because they're parts, they're living components of society as well, and they're connected to everything. This is an ironic point. They suggest, see, a lot of these fake gurus will suggest that they're authentic at upfront, as a brand. They put a lot of emphasis on branding when you sign up for these courses or these retainers. Brand, 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 strategy, strategy, call to action. So I've been in some calls, or like group, weekly group chats with a lot of people like this, and they all have the same mentality. The ones who make it big and crunch out numbers. And one of the guys that was on there, he would always be on his treadmill, walking, doing something, and I would be channeling him while observing everything and channeling everybody, just picking up on stuff, and just realizing, like, all these people have one thing in common: they are overstepping their own boundaries, and therefore other people. They're working themselves to the bone. Work is becoming the religion, and the religion is becoming work. So they're chasing the numbers, the progress. They've got tunnel vision. And focus, they'll call it focus, right? They'll be, it's focus. It's their perspective on it. I'm not going to argue with that, but that has a dark side to it, inevitably. And they end up chasing meaning in all of this garbage, and they end up accumulating a lot of wealth. But where are those people that they so-called helped? Are they now under their wing, or are they now certified as a healer? Are they a part of the pyramid, is what I'm asking. Are they going to then grow up to be the big birdie from the little birdie in the nest, and then go off and find their own eggs to nurture, and repeat the process? But that's not sustainable, because that inevitably means that there has to be people here and has to be people here. So that model is inappropriate for healing. And I understand this is kind of the corner that a lot of people feel boxed into with social media, and how visibility gets out, because honestly, we are in the least free time of the century. All this technology, all this interconnection, all this communication should make us the most free societies on earth, but they're not, because the wealth and the power that's been accumulated at the top is being used against everybody else. And you know it, with censorship, with the algorithms, with trying to run upstream, uphill, to get noticed. How many of you open up any social media app and see your friends' posts? Most of you don't. I bet none of you do. You'd have to actually go in, search for their name in the search bar, and even then it might not even pick up their posts. You're going to see ads. You're going to see curated content that was chosen by the company for you. You are the product. You're not the customer anymore. You're not the being that they're doing credible business with. You are something, you're an item, you're a subject that they're leveraging. So it's a big frustration of mine and many of you. You have legitimate gifts to offer the world, and there's all these obstacles, but they're all technical obstacles. They have everything to do with the environment we've paved for ourselves through the mindless, blind following a direction, a path with all of this technology and just taking social media as a given. Oh yeah, just go barrel headfirst into the snowstorm with your eyes closed or with a bandana on. It's just crazy. Like, humanity always does this. We always like barrel through something quick and then look back at the disaster that's occurred and then try to clean it up afterwards, right? Think about all the other technologies and the scientific advancements that were seen as revolutionary for the time, but then afterwards it's like, oh my God, this is so bad for everybody. Leaded gasoline. Well, I shouldn't say this, but certain bloodletting in the medieval times. I've got myself in so much trouble across my life, especially as a child, speaking up about stuff that people took offense to because they don't like to hear that. They're not always ready. People are not always ready to hear what they need to hear. And they take it personal and then they project it onto me as if it's my issue. Well, I've learned since then not to share that with everybody because not everybody wants that, not everybody needs that. And then I can trust that the universe is going to provide for them what they need. But I've always appreciated the people that come right to me, that feel it in their bones, that hear the words that I'm saying, that connect with what we channel, and they're honest with themselves about it. We can make the best progress because they're ready to do it. And then that stuff goes fast. The healing goes fast. It goes deep. And we get to levels that many people say they want, but don't actually want. They want placation. So that's what the marketing is for. In the US, all the food, especially the junk food, it's all got pretty packaging, fancy words. They figured out all the stuff they need to say. They've researched it with numbers, like millions and millions of case studies, and then they crack the code of human psychology and the subconscious. They're not looking out for you. They're solely looking to get as much profit as they possibly can. That's the extent of how dangerous this can become if it goes run away. That's what I'm trying to say. This does not belong in healing at all. So you have to ask yourself, do you really want to heal, or is it just you want to have the good, fuzzy, warm feeling that you're getting healing? I call these people weekend spiritualists because when I would do in-person events at a lot of places, you could always tell these people. They're the window shoppers, the browsers, the ones who come to your table and want to waste your time by asking this and this and this and that, but they don't actually want to hear what you have to share or what the answers may be.
But the fake gurus will give them answers.
Oh, for sure, because the fake gurus...
They don't even want to hear. They're just going to give it to them to make their clients or customers feel satisfied.
Yep, that's the goal. So there's nothing wrong with that as long as you say that's what you're doing. But if you're not informing that you're being a shady person or company, then that causes all sorts of issues. And that's another issue in and of itself. The bigger a company gets, the more susceptible it is to that, because a company doesn't have, a company dilutes accountability. Because if something bad happens to you from a product that was malfunctioning or something from a really big company, they're going to have the best lawyers, the best team, and even if you do get justice at the end of the day by paying a big legal bill and going through a legal battle and blah 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 blah, the actual person responsible is going to get away scot-free, and they're going to be rewarded by doing the same damage to millions of other people. Some person in a boardroom that brought that up. Why? Because they're completely disconnected from you as their customer. You're a number. You're a graph. You're a strategy. That's all you are. That's all you ever can be in that model. So why the hell would you ever settle for that with healing? For the reasons I just said. You don't want healing. You want to appear to be healed. You want to talk about how you've been to Reiki or how you do downward dog at yoga 3 times a week because you're just so committed. No, that's not transformation. It's not. That's not healing.
That's a pill that's hard to swallow.
Yeah. Well, all healing is. There's no comfortable healing ever. Truth is never comfortable, and it's never convenient, and it's never popular. Anything that's popular cannot be truthful. Think about that. Anything.
Just like people.
And think of anything that's popular. It's the least true thing or things or people there can be. Your favorite celebrities. The songs that are the biggest hits. The dogma that's propagated out. When was truth ever able to survive the light of day? Especially in our societies. We do everything we can to squash truth because truth is not convenient. And truth requires nuance. Nuance is not what people want. People want black and white. People want distinction. They want simplicity. The actual truth requires nuance because often the truth lies in between the black and the white, the binary. That's why there's a lot of contradiction in what the real yogis, gurus, healers of the world will often say. Even in my own words and what I channel, a lot of what I say will seem contradictory, or maybe it is, but the actual truth lies deeper than what my words are saying from the face value or from the confines of the descriptions that they are.
If this speaks to you, this is your sign, right here and now. Please share with us your life, your circumstances, your story down below. I'm here to help us distinguish between what is true and what is false for all things spiritual and healing related. For personal sessions and healing programs, please visit skychen.com.